Hello. We got the coronavirus here. The crisis has arrived. Whether we like it or not, whether we want it, whether we want to get rid of it, we want to get over it, the reality is that we're going to have to go through it. It's time to just find strategies that would help us just during this time, because we're going to have to confront it. There's no way around it. We're in the midst of it. It's funny because we've been talking about this for quite a while now, that there was a crisis coming because of the adjustments that the economy needed and so on. Although we didn't expect for it to come so quickly, I think the coronavirus gave us that push there that got us to where we're at right now. So what I want to do today is share with you 3 strategies that you can implement in your business to thrive during this time, to actually not just survive it, but thrive through it and make sure that the things are flowing, that we're growing and expanding during this period of time. And when we have that mind frame, it helps. It's incredible how the huge difference it makes to think of a thriving strategy as opposed to a surviving strategy. Even just the thought of it is completely different. It puts us into a different mindset, different way of thinking. And I want to share with you these 3 things that are going to help you get stronger during this period of time. The first thing that I want to talk about is our mindset, our psychology, if you will. If you notice right now, there's a lot of overwhelm, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety and angst and whatever you want to call that. It's very normal for the situation that's going on around the world for us to feel that way. But it's not necessary. We really don't have to feel those things. If we were being chased by a bear and we needed this energy or this all these hormones to just kick in and make us run and hide in a very safe place, that would be great. The thing is that we're not in the jungle and we're not being chased by a bear. And although even then we would have to overcome the fear and at some point go out and continue with our life and hunt down the bear and do whatever we need to do, that's not our situation. The situation is a bit different. And nowadays we hear a lot about people telling us, overcome your fear, put fear aside. It's no time to be afraid right now. And my favorite is don't be afraid, And they tell us this like if there was a switch that we could just turn on and off, and that's it. The reality is it's very frustrating when they tell us that, because, what the hell, we're in the midst of this. Don't just tell me to get rid of it or to overcome it or to do whatever, and then leave me with the feeling of that anxiety or that whatever, because you haven't told me how to get rid of it. And what I'm here to do is to give you a strategy, give you a technique, if you will. I learned this from Christian Mickelson way back, and I've used it with my clients, I've used it with myself, and it's so practical, so incredible, because it really does help you liberate that anxiety, that fear, that negative emotion that you have, so that you can think better, so that you can actually make better decisions. What happens is when we have these negative feelings, it's like having a blindfold on, that we're not really seeing where we're going. We really, it's harder to make decisions, harder to be assertive and to move forward. You know what I'm talking about. There's nothing like being free from fear to move faster, to make better decisions. So what they haven't told us is that all these emotions have a lifespan, that they're not forever. Even though that we've been feeling them, we can say forever, they're not forever. They have a lifespan. The thing is, we have never allowed them to express themselves long enough to live their lifespan. So they're always there. They're always there, and we try to, do positive thinking, and we try walks, and we try all these activities to to get rid of the fear. And what we actually end up doing is either repressing, suppressing, or escaping. And neither one of those three things really gets rid of the feeling. It just puts it aside temporarily, and then all of a sudden it just comes up without even us thinking about it. Sometimes in the worst possible moment, when we have to make a decision, or we gotta talk to a client or talk to a supplier or one of our employees or whatever, all of a sudden it comes up and we're in the midst of fear, and we're saying, where'd that come from? And it's because we've been repressing it or suppressing it or escaping it. We haven't really released it completely. And the strategy here is to let it go, to actually let the fear, let that emotion, as it is, fear itself, it's not, we're not afraid of the thing or anything in particular. What gets us afraid is the fear of fear. That's our biggest challenge, is to let fear be, and accept it. And if you noticed, all of our emotions, all these feelings are expressed in our body physically. We feel these emotions physically somewhere. They're not thoughts. Those are not the emotions. Those are thoughts. What the thoughts are, the emotions, it's a sensation, it's a physical sensation that we feel in our body. And we can feel them anywhere. I personally feel it most of the time here in my stomach. I feel this pressure, this emptiness, this angst, that if you will, and it just moves up and almost like chokes me. But it's a feeling. I can explain to you exactly how it feels because it's a feeling. I can sense it. I can see it move. I can feel it move. I can, like tensing up, expanding or contracting or whatever. I can actually go through an explanation of how I'm feeling this sensation in my body. And that's the negative emotion feels like that in the body. And when we allow it for it to express itself completely and fully, it actually releases it. It actually frees it and lets it go, and now we're free from it. Now we don't feel it anymore. Now we can think of the things that's causing it, or the situation that can cause the sensation, and you can see that it won't be there anymore. And we'll be curious that you'll also find is that when this sensation is done, is completely, has lived its lifespan completely, and it's over, your thought pattern is going to change, because a lot of the thoughts that you were having is not because of what you were thinking or the situation that you're confronting. It's because of this feeling that you have. And when you release this feeling, all of a sudden you're going to be able to see, you're going to be able to operate in a different mode. Your state of mind will be different, and you'll be able to see a lot clearer. This technique is once again, I can send you a document that walks you step by step through it, just like we've spoken about right now. And so if you want it, just write to me. I'll be glad to send it to you. Or if you want me to walk you through a session where we release one of these negative emotions, I'd love to do it. Just be in touch with me, and we'll set up a session for you so you can just release this negative emotion. Okay, so that's the first one. I told you I was going to give you 3. So the first one is psychology, how to deal with these emotions so that you can be free from them, and be able to work faster with more certainty and so on. The second part of this is, in these times of crisis or of stress or everything that we're experiencing, being focused is so important. Making sure that we stay focused in doing what we need to do, right? And in order for us to do that, we need to find out what is the one thing that we need to focus on. There has to be one thing right now that going through all this that we're going through, that's going to get me to the other side. That's going to get me to having a company that's thriving, that it's not just surviving, that it's moving on and doing good. There has to be one thing that I can come up with. And for that, there's also the exercise of the one thing. Gary Keller talks about the one thing and writes a whole book about it. But the bottom line is, there's always one thing that doing it causes everything else to be easier and or even to the point that they're not necessary, right? And the first thing we do was find out what do we want to work on? What are the areas that we're working on a specific department within our company, or we're working on something that we're stuck. We're stuck on sales. We're stuck on getting all the employees to work in their house. How we're going to do that, or how do we contact our vendors? How we're going to pay them? What's going to happen with them? How we're going to do that, or our clients. It might be different situations that we're going through that we need the one thing to help us move forward. And once we have that, then what we do is we take paper and pencil and we sit down, and for 10-15 minutes we write all the solutions, all the possible solutions, getting off your head into paper, so that you get those creative juices flowing. That we want to stress ourselves writing stuff. We don't want to stop until we get to that point where we're empty. We have emptied out all possibilities into paper. And it's a time not to judge. Don't use judgment whatsoever, whether it's illegal, whether it goes against my values or my beliefs. It doesn't matter. Just get it down on paper. The reason we do this, we don't judge it at all, is so that we can get those juices flowing, those creative juices, and then it just doesn't stop. It just flows, and you'll get to that point where it starts flowing. You start writing good stuff, and then once you have a good list, a lot of stuff that you could do, a lot of activities, a lot of action steps, then you look back and take from there and scratch out everything that's maybe illegal, maybe it goes against your values, maybe there are things that are impossible to do. All of a sudden you might have written down, move to the moon and avoid the virus. Well, that might not be feasible, so you scratch it out and you leave the good stuff. You leave everything that you've dumped into the paper that really makes sense and it's good ideas. And then once you have that, you read it over, you analyze it, then you step back and you say, okay, what's the one thing that if we were to do that one thing would make all this happen, or will make all this easier to do, or sometimes even we don't even have to do them or do some of them, So what's the one thing that doing it would make everything easier or even unnecessary to do? Okay, so we analyze that, we make sure that there is that one thing, we come up with it. And then the next step, once we have that one thing, and it might take a bit to come up with it. By the way, this one thing may not be in the list. It might be something that you come up because you have seen the list and you go, wow, in order to do this, if I do this other thing, it would make everything else easier and even unnecessary. Okay, so don't think that the one thing has to be in the list. It might be something that you just come up with by looking at the list. Once you have that one thing, another, by the way, is that if you do this with your leadership team, if you do it with your department, if you do it in teams as a whole, incredible what happens when we get collective intelligence working together. It's impressive what happens, the idea that come up. So in order to come up that one thing, if you use other people, it's great. Use it, work through it, and that gets everybody involved. And then once you have that one thing, then take 3 to 6 action steps that you would want to do in order for that one thing to happen. And these are things that you can measure, things that you can follow up with, things that you can do on a daily basis, and that way you stay on track, you stay focused going towards that one thing that you want to accomplish. If you notice, this what does is gives you tremendous focus. If you're working with the department or with your leadership team, is incredible how it focuses everybody on working on one thing instead of everybody working on different things and try to solve in different matters. So once again, for this, I also have a worksheet that if you want me to send it to you, it makes it a lot easier, and that way you're not working on a plain piece of paper, but actually you're following the steps. It's a sheet that I work from the bottom up, and then at the end you will have the 3 or 6 action steps on the top. You'll have the one thing to follow. You'll have the whole bunch of ideas that you can come up with, and then you'll have a problem at the bottom. And that way you can just finish that, pass it around, say, hey guys, this is the one thing we're going to concentrate on. everybody's going to focus on this, and that way we can move forward. So that's my second strategy. The first one is psychology, getting those negative feelings liberated and freed from you. And the second is the one thing to concentrate on so you can do. The third is communication. One of the things I've noticed is throughout the different crises, I have that advantage that I've been in quite a few of these crises that have popped up in different times in my life. I'm an entrepreneur since I was, I can't even remember how far back, 18 or something like that. And so these crises have come up, and one of the things I've noticed is that to have assertive communication is one of those things that is required during these periods of time in order to stay strong and to stay united with your company and your employees, vendors, and clients, and to be in touch with everybody are so important. To have assertive communication, to have open communication, to have honest communication, to be in touch with your people so that they know that we're around, that they know that we're still there for them. Remember that a lot of this that's going on right now, especially with our employees that have gone home and are working from home, they're not used to it. Don't think it's the same thing as it working in the office. They still got to get in the rhythm of it. So make sure you're in touch with them. Make sure that you're using technology the right way so that you can get a hold of them. Today, there's so many things. There's from WhatsApp videos to Zoom to Webinar Jam to conference calling. There's so many options that we have in our small businesses that are very accessible, and even some of them are free, that we need to get a hold of that so that we can be in touch with our people, so that we can be assertive with them, give them that certainty that things are okay, that things are moving on, that we haven't stopped, that we're not in vacation, but if we're not in touch with them, we don't know what they're doing. We don't know how they're taking things. So one of the things I'm suggesting to all my clients now is to have daily huddles with their people in order to get on the same page every day. Things are changing so fast, so dramatically, that if we don't do that, if we're not in touch with them every day, they might get lost. They might not know what tasks follow, what I need to do. Once again, they're not used to working on their own, working alone. So we need to give them that certainty and be there for them. The other thing that we need to do is communicate to our clients. Let our clients know where we're at, what we're doing, how we're delivering our services or our products. Are we still delivering? Or are we planning later deliveries? Or everything that we're planning on doing, our customers need to know. They need to know that they can still trust that you're still around, that you're still open, that you're still functioning, that you're doing it in a different way, because definitely you're doing it in a different way. Right now, we're all doing it in a different way, right? So make sure you communicate it to your clients. Make sure you're first in calling them instead of them trying to figure out where you're at, what's going on, what's happening. So it's a great time to follow up with everybody. It gives you a good excuse to be in touch with them and letting them know that you're worried about them, you want to know how they're doing, or if you can deliver in a certain manner or in a different manner, if you can provide services in a different way. And there's so many ideas that have come up. I work with a psychologist that she refused to do any online sessions, and now she's doing them. All of a sudden, this situation has opened up for her this brand new world of giving sessions online. So if we get creative and we contact our clients, you'd be surprised how you can serve them. Be there for them. This is the time to be them. Just because you can't deliver a product, you can't deliver a service, or you haven't come up with the idea of how to do it yet, doesn't mean that you shouldn't be in touch with them, just to see how they're doing. Take the initiative, and that way your clients will remember you afterwards. Your customer will know that you were there, that you were interested, and that's important to keep your company strong, to keep your company thriving during these periods of time. Also, your vendors are worried. Everybody's worried. So make sure you're the one that calls them first. Don't wait for them to call you if there's a change, if you need changing terms or changing pricing. It's a good time to negotiate, good time to get on the phone call and ask, what are you doing now? Are you bettering our terms, or are you reducing prices? Do you have different delivery schedules that you need? Whatever it is you need, make sure you're the one that contacts them first. And that's always for a negotiating purpose. It always helps a lot more when we're the ones that initiate it. So don't wait for them to call you. Make sure you're the one that communicates first. And remember that as leaders, we are the ones that have to stand up now and give certainty to our people, to those around us. So don't leave it for later. Start communicating now. Every time we find news from those that are close to us, whether it be our suppliers or our clients or our employees, or when we hear from our leaders, we feel better. We feel a sense of certainty that this situation is taking away from us. So make sure you're up there to provide that for them. So those are the 3 steps. Once again, psychology, the whole negative emotions and getting rid of them. Second, the one thing that's going to get you through this situation. And third, communication. Make sure communication is happening, that you're not ignoring your people. Remember, after a while, our employees feel abandoned, so be there for them. And once again, if you can take this information and do it in 3 ways. Either don't do anything and just wait, see what happens. There's nothing wrong with that, and whatever happens. There's a lot of people that are doing that. That are just waiting to see what happens. Second, you can take this and implement it yourself. You can try and see how you work through your feelings. You find out the one things. You get a communication strategy going on your own, and you do it. And the third is I can work with you. You let me know. We'll set up a session, and with no cost. But by the way, one of the things that we've decided is that we're here to help for now. So we're providing free sessions. So if you're interested in that, let me know, and I'll send you a link where you can fill out a small survey to see if I can help you, and we can connect, and I can help you strategize. I can help you set this up. Be more than open to doing that. Thank you so much for being with me. Comment on it. Share this video if you think it's helpful, it's been helpful for you. Share it with somebody, and we'll see you in the next video.